have you learned from people in foreign countries about how we age well?
It's such a great story. I've been to about 82, 83 countries and brought back a lot of that knowledge, both in longevity and to Aegis. But one of the stories that I love is one of the favorite places that my wife and I go is Capri, Italy. And, or as Americans say, Capri, but in Italian, they say Capri. And so we stay in this little hotel and it's got a veranda and it's down by the harbor. And I was out on the veranda one day and I noticed this elderly lady. She had to be in her 80s and she had on like a wool coat and a big heavy purse. And if you've ever been to Capri, it's on a mountain. And so there's like a 1.5 mile hike to the top. I mean, it's significant grade. It's like significant. And so I'm like, oh, I wonder where she's going. So I stand there, I look at her, and she goes up the hill, and I can see almost to the top of the town up the hill. And I'm like, holy cow, she's really booking, right? And so next day I come out, I'm reading my paper, same lady, same coat, same bag, up the hill. So the third day I go, if I see that lady, I'm going to run after her and see where she's going, right? So lo and behold, like 8 a.m., same lady, same coat. So I get on my tennis shoes. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm going to run after this old lady that's walking up the hill. She's like, what? So I run out of the hotel, run after her. And, I'm about maybe 100 meters behind her. And I see her duck into this store. And I'm getting there. And then she comes out of the store and she goes back up the rest of the hill. So I go into the store, I'm huffing and puffing and dying because I ran half a mile up this hill. And I go in the staircase. I say, do you know who this older lady is? Oh, yeah, she come in every day. I go, why does she come in every day? Oh, she buy milk. I go, man, she must like a lot of milk. Oh, no, she don't like milk. She likes to climb hill, And so, the whole point of the story was she didn't care. She just stopped there to say hi to Giorgio, who was selling the milk. She gave the milk away once she reached the top of the hill. She just liked to walk up this damn hill every day. I said, well, yeah, I learned the storekeeper's name. I said, Giorgio, how old is she? Oh, she's 92,
Oh,
And so, I mean, here it was, 87 degrees, wool coat, walking up this hill to buy the milk, to give the way. That's just the way it is, right? And you look at the Italians, they live 5 to 6 years longer than Americans, right? It's not because they have this super wealthy lifestyle. In fact, most of them smoke for 30 years. It's just because they move their bodies and, they have this lifestyle of life is sweet and meant to be sat and have good relationships and drink wine and sit in the square. And, we just don't do that as Americans.
yeah. You had a personal health crisis in your life with some internal bleeding, and I take it that kind of gave you pause and also gave you motivation to do things differently. What was the biggest thing you changed, Dwayne, after your personal health
Well,
situation?
I think it goes back to, I always thought exercise was the key to being healthy, right? But I've been a big kid all my life. I was 200 pounds in ninth grade. I was a wrestler. I was a nose guard on the football team. I've always been 200-pound plus, and usually in the mid twos. And so at this time, I'd just come off a retreat with my staff. I was working hard trying to keep up with these kids 20 years younger than me in the gym and lifting weights and running and popping 6 Advil a day, and had this GI bleed that they couldn't stop and had to go in the hospital and almost have emergency surgery. And it was reflective of, that's when I started to write 30 Summers More and changed the whole format of it, because I was probably 53 at the time, 54 at the time. And it just said, oh, it's just not about exercise. It's about other things, how I deal with stress. So I started meditating religiously, so I meditate 20 minutes every day. I'm a big fan of Wim Hof breathing. So because oxygen and breathing helps ignite your cellular life. So I'm a big fan of Wim Hof breathing. I started writing a gratitude journal, just being in gratitude. Started taking my sleep very seriously. If anybody wants to change anything about their life, it all starts with the foundation of sleep. So if you don't get 7 hours of sleep every night, and you don't have at least an hour and 10, hour and 15 REM, and an hour and 10, hour and 15 in deep, your lifespan's going to be shortened. And people can say, I don't need it. I'll sit down with you. I'll show you 30 studies. You need it.
Yeah.
Because what happens is sleep is the factory going to work. And what I mean by that, Mark, is two things happen. When you sleep, your body gets rid of these senescent cells, which are cancer causing, diabetes causing, heart disease causing cells. They're dead cells that you have to expel. It can't get rid of them. It can't take them through the lymphatic system unless you have 7 hours of sleep, and mostly deep sleep, because that's when the factory is most efficient. And the other thing is it needs 7 hours to produce the new cells to take the place of them. So if you cut the factory short, I tell people it's like throwing your muddy jeans in the wash and turning off the spin cycle halfway through and expecting them to be clean. It needs a certain amount of time to do the work. And the amount of time minimum is 7 hours. 8 is better, but 7 is sufficient. So you have to get that sleep if you want to have a good quality of life, because everything after that is exercise, diet, lifestyle, whatever. It's all insufficient to catch up with sleep.
Yeah. I have to ask you about your documentary on Spencer Haywood. When
Hmm.
I was a kid, we didn't have television up in Ferndale up by the Canadian border, so we listened to Bob Blackburn do the Seattle Sonics games, and I just have such fond memories. And Spencer Haywood was just a legendary basketball player.
Oh,
How did you get into that space? You've created a number of documentaries and
yeah.
films. Take me to that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a huge movie buff, and I got involved with SIF, and I really liked true stories. And so I started my own production company called True Productions. And I just wanted to tell cool stories that were out there. And so I've done 13 documentaries now through True Productions, and many have won all kinds of awards. And I was at a Russell Wilson golf tournament. Russell was a good friend and got introduced to Spencer Haywood, and he started talking to me about, hey, I think there's a chance I could get into the Hall of Fame. And I said, has anyone ever approached you about doing a documentary? And he's like, no. I go, we're going to make a documentary for you. And I really, in my naive little mind, I really didn't know what that would take or how much it would cost, which it was substantial. But I footed the bill for it and did a movie called Full Court, the Spencer Haywood story, which has been an incredible story. It's on Netflix now. And his rise from being this poor man in the South picking cotton that had an extra joint in his finger that could essentially be, they told him you'd be the best cotton picker around because your hands are so big, right? And he practiced on baskets that weren't basketball hoops. They were cotton picking baskets and balls that were made out of twine and so on. And became one of the greatest basketball players of all time. Is now a Hall of Famer. And it was great pleasure to do that movie. In fact, I've got the movie poster sitting here right by me, and it's I mean, Charles Barkley was in it, Lenny Wilkins, Pat Riley, Bill Bradley, just a whole number of people that were in the movie and helped me with it. And it's narrated by his godfather, who was Chuck D.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, so fun experience for me.
Yeah. So Dwayne, as we wind things down here, I'd love your perspective on what we're trying to do, and that is to redeem work. What advice would you have for either that person entering the workforce or maybe that middle manager who's been there 20, 25 years to make work a place that honors people?
Yeah, I think I kind of process this question as advice that I would give to my grandchildren, right? And my oldest grandchildren's 17, graduating this year. And the thing that I always tell my grandkids is, first of all, be what I call an HQH, a high quality human, right? And to be an HQH, you have to surround yourself with other HQHs, right? And that means the company you choose, the friends you have, the person you date, eventually the person you pick to be your spouse. It all starts with that. And oftentimes we make decisions for money or prestige or imagery or whatever, because our parents told us to. And it gets you off the track of being with that high quality human. And that's one of the things that I've learned from the 70, 80,000 people that I've cared for, is that's one of their biggest regrets, that I took this job because my parents really wanted me to, or I married this person because she was pretty and I didn't really love her. It's all these regrets that we have that we didn't follow our heart about, how do I live this purpose and live with high quality humans? And because at the end of the day, it's really not about the monetary things or the things you buy at Bellevue Square, which you'll never remember in 10 years. It's about the people and the relationships you have. And that's why the Harvard study has been so profound for me, is that that's what life is all about. That's what legacy is all about. It's how you impact and affect other people. And I mean, if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, I can make you $1 billion, Dwayne, but you have to work with these three evil people," it wouldn't take me a millisecond to say, "Go, leave." So I think the advice I can say is just look for high quality people. They'll make you better. And that's the secret for longevity as well, as those relationships that you have with quality people.
Yeah. I read that your mother dealt with memory issues at the end of her life. How aware was she of your success in terms of how far along the spectrum you got in terms of your business when she was still able to
Yeah,
understand it?
she got Alzheimer's probably in about 2002. She
Mhm.
died in 2010, so she had it for a fair amount of time. When I left college, she bought me this necklace that said "My son, the lawyer," and she's like, "You're always going to go back to law school." And I remember taking her into an Aegis building, and very similar story to Howard Schultz told me about his mom one time when he brought her into the company, and she's like, "Who's paying all these people?" And he's like, "Well, I am, mom." And it's like, "Oh, come on." Very similar to that. My mom was like, "Well, who owns this?" And you're trying to explain the corporate structure to her, and she's not quite getting it. I think unfortunately she probably got dementia before she saw the peak of my career, me rising that. But she always had great faith. It's interesting how the world works, because she became a customer of mine. She lived and died in Aegis building the last 6 years of her life. I kind of tell people I'm like the men's hair club guy. I'm not only the CEO. I'm a customer, right? And that was as hard as that was, and it was hard, believe me, on a number of counts. It gave me incredible perspective about what our families go through, right? And how hard it is for them to give up control of their parents and to see their decline. And so that's been a gift that I look at that and go, that God really gave me a good lesson there. So that's been a gift.
Well, Dwayne, what you're providing the world is just simply inspiring, that people are able to spend the end of their lives in a place that feels good, that is, honoring who they are as a human being. And I just don't think there's more important work in terms of how we make the world a better place. So, um,
Thank
I
you,
just,
Mark.
yeah, I want to thank you for what you do in the world and how you show up. We didn't get a chance to talk about your philanthropy work, but maybe for a future episode. But you
All
are
right.
truly one of those human beings making a difference in the world by showing up the right way. So thank you so much, Dwayne.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.